Let's move ahead to our reviewer, Chris Maduka. Good morning, Chris, and welcome.
Good morning, Belinda, and good morning, Charles.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, world, citizens of the world, and good-hearted people.
Right. The NYC now can work anywhere, but I thought that it's been there. I mean, it's not like the NYC members haven't been working in banks, haven't been working in private sector. I didn't even know there was even a restriction, because as at now, we know that there are NYC members who work in banks, who work in private sector. I mean, so what is this the federal government is saying that...
that is the country you will find yourself, Charles. Until now, whoever you find as a copper working in oil and gas are the children with the golden spoon in their mouth. All of us passed through NYC in Nigeria since it started. We know those they post to banks, even to CBN. We know the ones they post to oil and gas. We know the ones that worked in NNPC as coppers. But that's the country you are. And the country we are all sitting in, this is only the time now. After how many years of NYC, that somebody is coming out to make this policy known. Because whatever is happening before is that a senator sits down somewhere and makes call. That is if that particular child of the people in high powers wants to come and soil his royal robes in Nigeria. Otherwise, how many of them come? How many of them have NYC certificate? It's only when there is political, when there is political appointment they want to put them there. We start having issues of, you didn't serve, NYC will go, NYC will they start throwing tantrums and they will have fake certificates. Most of these children of big people in Nigeria don't even serve. And in cases where they serve, they don't serve where you serve. Most of them did not serve in the primary schools that do not have roof, where most of us served. That is the country. What's today's date? Check how many years of NYC. This is the first time you're hearing this. And check how many years you are in Nigeria. Check the profession you are as a journalist, having walked across. This is the first time you're hearing this. And they say this country is going somewhere. I said, why disturbing God every day? With Nigeria that do not want to help itself? That keep telling themselves lies and lies and lies. As far as it does not favor you, you turn it around. When it favors you, you keep quiet, and lies will go on and on and on. And we say we are one Nigeria. If anybody wants to say anything, the one must be pushed to agree in one Nigeria. When you agree to one Nigeria, you will be forced to know that all animals are not equal in Nigeria. Is it not the highest level of injustice? And people are there. So Nigerian youth, good luck to you. Good news. You can now work as the NYC core member in banks. Privilege. You can work in oil and gas now. Privilege. Let us go back to this oil and gas sector and trace, since how many years of NYC, how many people who work there as youth corpers. And these people are not ashamed to come up with this policy. And now they could have kept quiet and be sending their children, the privileged children, to serve in choice places in Nigeria. Go to the camp, NYC camp, whenever they are. You see the pressures the directors of NYC states are facing. Oga at the top has spoken, the letters coming in here and there. Even some of these shops don't even serve. They only need to fulfill all righteousness, papers, documents to be written, and that's all. Some of them will even be abroad and they are getting allowances of NYC. And somebody is signing for it. Mm-hmm. So when we are talking about corruption, can't you see when I say Nigerians are fantastically corrupt people? You agree with me? Because when we sit here, most of the times we shout and talking against politicians. Every single Nigerian, I don't know who did this to us. maybe we can still go back and say we're blaming anybody for having made us to lose trust in Nigeria and go into corruption. But we are corrupt, no matter how we look at it. Because we cannot, because of this, because everybody, people who are leading us are corrupt, everybody now sees corruption as the career path where everybody wants to take. Nigerians, any goat that is lying down on the ground is lying down on its skin. Do you know how you make your mat? You lie on it. So if corruption is beautiful for us, because this is what we are talking about. But then think about it. Why are we talking about the leaders? If they stand their ground and say we should stop corruption, people will start falling into place. Yes. What makes Nigerians, which I'm not justifying, to go into most of the things you have these days, in fact, most of them is not more corruption. It's wickedness in high and low places. It has passed corruption. People now are now practicing wickedness.
Right. Moving into this particular story of IDP camp polygamy. The Borno State governor, this is the governor for the first time I'm hearing come out openly to talk about marrying more than one wife if you cannot take care of them. I mean, it's religious to marry 4 wives in the Muslim parlance. But he has said, look, if you cannot take care of more than one, don't go into that because you're causing trouble for the society.
You know, I need to understand, as a Christian father that I am, which I always refer to myself, what do you mean by IDP polygamy?
Like you are in the IDP taken care of by the federal government or state government resources. And then you are using that resources to marry more than one wife within the IDP camp circle.
Now understand. So when some people somewhere, I mean, that means there's still, in every situation, that's when I tell you about corruption of Nigerians. At that level, what do you do? Some people have been displaced by terror and bandits, terrorists and bandits. And government in their magnanimity has cleared a portion and put a large chunk of budget of the state and kept them somewhere, feeding them, clothing them, and probably providing security to the extent they can. At least putting roof over their head, no matter even if it's temporal, roof. It's something, in that community. Some people feel it's their own portion of national cake. They will step in there and then continue to make babies with multiple women.
But Chris, if the person is already married with more than one wife, it's not
wouldn't
bad.
have been a case. What we are talking
No,
here,
what
you have been a case is that you are displaced with your 5 wives and you're taken to IDP camp. You are staying there with them. What of the people who are there at the IDP camps, maybe they came with one. Before they leave IDP camp, or even Hopping Hope of North, they are married.
But what if the person actually came with no wives and then you finally found,
Then you married 20 in one place. I think we'll take you to one of the IDP camps. The way you are sounding, it's like you are looking for a husband in IDP camp.
Go into the world and multiply. I'm a creature of that.
Camp. Nobody said go into IDP camp, marry wives and proclaim.
It isn't their fault, Chris. It isn't their fault.
No. It is
to be displayed.
You are marrying at whose expenses?
It is not your fault to be displaced.
When they displace you, you don't have power to redisplace yourself. Then somebody place you somewhere for your safety. You are hanging on that to marry many wives. Let's call a spade a spade.
I know my watchers, they will understand what I'm talking about. You can drop your comments on this particular issue because
the comments are,
Chris is on my neck, but I'm I'm a preacher of procreation.
What we
go and continue.
The way I see
you, not at the expense of the federal government.
Not at the expense. No, government have not said you cannot marry.
Government officials marry more than one wives.
They are raising alarm in IDP camp. Why are we misunderstanding it?
Government officials are marrying more than one wife.
There's a difference.
If this one
and they are being fed with the federal
money. This one, if it becomes IDP, first lady tomorrow. This one becomes first lady tomorrow.
We are facing the
first policy is you make is for you to go into IDP camp and procreate. And
it is not a national cake,
to
go into IDP camp. But what I'm saying
it's
is,
your opinion.
what I'm saying is, government officials, they marry more than one wife.
They can
So,
afford
no,
it. They can
no,
afford it.
they are being paid. They have budget, and this federal government budget they are using to feed their families.
They earn
What are
money,
you
they
saying?
earn money in salaries. every
Now,
month.
Okay.
now
It's
what
still the federal government
what do you push
money.
as a gender-sensitive person? Push for your state
This
government.
has nothing to do with gender,
but
Chris.
for that,
We're
when,
just
when
talking
people
generally.
are married, they should pay the allowance to marry as many wives as possible. Not when they have a security situation and they're in IDP camp and somebody is
fall in
protecting
love.
and they're increasing. Nobody say do not fall in love. If you fall in love with 5 wives at the expense of the federal government or the state government, it is an error. No matter how you want to look at it, let's not, when we see call a spade, that's what we should bother to do in Nigeria, and that's what we are trying to do here. So let's not water it down. Nobody will promote going to IDP camp to procreate and marry many wives because people in government marry so many wives. Go back to your house, marry 20, 50 wives. Nobody will stop you. Don't go into a government camp to marry.
But the major issue, Seth, is even the matter of being able to take care of them. Marry if you can, marry as much as possible, but can you take care of them?
Because that's the
important
essence. If you are marrying and you are procreating, the more plates that you present when there's meal time,
Yes.
and IDP camp increases. And then you stay here and say hardship and hunger. Some people are safely sitting down somewhere. They're not productive to the society. They're at the expense government children, and they go there only to add to our burden. And you say it's good to justify it because somebody in government marry. If somebody in government and the position he has allows him to the salary to marry 50 wives, let him go ahead.
Yeah.
But when that man gets into IDP camp under government money and want to marry, we still raise the alarm we are raising here.
All right, Chris, let's move ahead.
Move
Tinubu
ahead.
submits 2025 budget to National Assembly, but that's not for approval. But that's not the one that got my attention. Tinubu seeks Senate approval for 1.767 trillion naira external borrowing plan.
And the
We are
Senate is seeking quick action to quickly approve that for the president. Now you start asking yourself, who is borrowing? Is it the presidency?
And who
or
are
the
they borrowing
Senate?
for?
No. The question will start for. When they eventually borrow, they've borrowed so many for you, you do not know. So stay brace up. Because generations of almost 20 years will keep paying debt. That is settled. What we are saying is that the Senate seeks expeditious action for Tinubu's 1.77 trillion loan request. My question is, I suppose that the presidency will be seeking expeditious action, lobbying. Now it's the Senate that is lobbying for these things to go fast.
So it means there is an
The question is
interest
for you to answer.
somewhere.
I have just said, what I'm feeling is that this is not good. His marks of, it's just like, I don't know who approved. So when they said the Senate is a unit in Aso, you start wondering. Otherwise, why should a dog go eat shit and a goat that is having rotten teeth? This is an error. And some people will come back and say they are distinguished senators.
But I'm still confused about the budget process. This year alone, we have had several temporary budgets being sent to the National Assembly. I think I counted up to 4. Appropriation, yes.
Appropriation, you have had so many.
Like,
when they got in there,
and I'm wondering, like,
you only hear,
is it different from the budgets for this year, 2024?
There was sick review.
They say external borrowing. So,
when the budget is already approved. Before he finished the implementation, before the year runs out, they were seeking reviews and approbation. So they were adding up in that, using legal process to add up to it. But that's why in Nigeria, at the end of it all, nobody tells you what the first figure you hear, like we're hearing now. We had a figure. We're not even worried about figure because we are talking about that as mere figures. The one that we are worried is this one where some hawks that have connived, the World Bank, the IMF, and all those kind of things that are borrowing us this money, have never asked Nigeria like you ask, who you borrow for and what you use it for. Those 5 W's and H. Nobody asks about these loans. And when it drops, as they are dropping, those ones who are seeking expeditious action are already weighted how this money will drop and dissolve. It's like pouring salt inside the ocean. If we have been borrowing and we can look at some tangible things that of development in Nigeria, you say, wow, at least this one. We have borrowed 1.7 trillion to put this. And over years, this thing will pay back. That's my word. Every government of the world borrow. America borrows. All the countries of the world government borrows money, and they're all in debt. So the world runs in the idea of debt. Nobody, on the day they finish paying their debt, the world ends. But without the difference of borrowing and we're servicing. The difference of America borrowing is that America will never pay its debt because it's borrowing. You are borrowing with their own currency. You understand this? If people are borrowing using Naira, Nigeria will not pay because it's our currency we are using to borrow. Everybody is borrowing trillions of dollars. They only converted this one to Naira so that you understand. But if you want to borrow, nobody goes to the world to borrow because Nigeria is not spending anywhere. So you can't borrow dollars and expect America can't borrow dollars. That is their money. You expect them to pay back. Do you understand this logic?
Yeah.
So the people of the world that will continue to pay debt are the ones who are borrowing with their currencies in the name of their currencies. You see this snag there. So any amount of Naira, you see 1.7 billion, a Senate is, so why is Senate? Senate is almost one of the highest decision-making body in Nigeria. So if they're seeking expedition action, this is like, he has gone, approved. Yeah, those who want to say, yeah. In fact, he will say, yeah, 5 times. So this one is almost like gone. So count it that Nigeria has added.
It's actually $2.2 billion. Converted to Naira is 1.7 trillion.
Okay. So imagine this. Check what, when you look at what we are,
47.79 trillion.
47.9
7.9
trillion Naira is our budget.
Yeah.
We have had other figures of what we're going to borrow. Now we are seeking this, and this is not the end. When it gets approved, this, they will prepare for another one, seek approval. And when Senate is already saying expedition action, do this for the presidency. They're in love with our president, in love with Nigeria, and once they keep heaping money, we need to borrow to succeed. What we are doing with the money we borrow, it's our question. That's our word.
Absolutely.
Nothing, because
Absolutely.
you can't stop them from borrowing.
Tompolo is accusing the Navy of aiding oil thieves.
Now, when the dog eats the bone hung on this neck, it's an error. The Navy are supposed to support the private, as government eye, they support and protect the private contractor of oil pipeline and crude oil thefts. Now it's like you wake up in the morning, you find the fox lying dead in front of chicken's hole. Chicken's nest, the roost. Ordinarily, when you wake up in the morning and find chicken lying dead in front of fox hole, you say, the fox has done it again. Fox feed on chicken. This fox, they've started killing chickens. But once they find the other way around, it is the fox that is lying dead in front of chickens. That's the error of Nigeria. Tompolo, a single individual with his power that the government felt that should give you so much money to protect oil, is now accusing Navy. And you want me to step into that, to review that. So Nigerians take it, what will Chris Maduka review in this case? It shows you the dog in Nigeria has started eating the bone hung on his neck. That means the center is no more holding. And things has fallen apart.
All right. Senate's VP bid Oba farewell with growing tributes to Ifeanyi Oba. I mean, this is a multi-billionaire.
We worry. My worry is that when the growing tribute, we saw all and one of us, our president, was the master of ceremony of that event, and he did well. Must say kudos, he did us proud. But then the next thing is whenever you see this kind of thing happening, another growing tribute to another Igbo politician. I remember what the Rochas Okorocha's tribute, which marks so many things. You count that within how many months, how many strong Igbo men that has gone. It looks like a dream. And begin to make me get worried. Anu is gone. Iwanyan is gone. Ifeanyi is gone. That can you start counting? There's so many within a very short time like that, and we are paying glowing tribute.
You can win anyway.
The Igbo nation should sit up and ask themselves questions.
But do you think it's not normal? I mean, it's some of them say the health situation.
Well, when a situation can be normal, but you count the laws of who it affects. That's why you see, if you are fast losing potential leaders or the mouthpieces of your nation, and you are sitting quietly, not thinking about it, who replaces them? Within this short time, at this critical stage of Igbo and the Nigerian politics, people who are missing, find a community that are missing one by one and they are laughing, paying glowing tribute. They will finish missing. Before they look back, their community is empty. They won't see anybody. That's where I'm going. And this is proverb of bone and silence. The Igbo nation, this rain that is falling on Igbo nation. Make una look well where it start falling on you, so that you will be able to look back and say, it stopped falling, the rain stopped falling on us at this point. That's the only thing I can say. Otherwise, I'm worried. It might be people who are naturally, nobody predicts it, only God knows when you come and when you go. But when you're fast losing, some of those things you cherish. And you have to sit up and say, well, it's not just to lose. What's the replacement? At this point, among all these people, Ogbonnayaonu, you know what he did? He came out boldly, contested for the presidential primary of APC, and he stood bold and made his opinion known. People like that are going, and you're not thinking, I'm worried. So, well, to the Ebube Chukwuzo for Nnewi, the Nnewi-born politician, Ifeanyi, may your soul rest in peace, just like among all the soul of the departed. May rest in peace. But we have these losses to count.
Okay, we just have 1 minute just to wrap things up on the
traditional rulers not afraid of governors. It's the Sultan. I like it that they are not supposed to. All these governors are supposed to be children. I've worked among a lobbying group who created what they call reform champions on utility in one state. And when the traditional ruler of the community, when we explained to him what we came for, said, you are the chairman of reform champions on this issue. The governor is your son. He said, leave matter. The man who comes weekend and he almost comes to see me. I will tell him, why will he spend more money on water in Delta State? I'm forced now to review this. So the traditional rulers are supposed to be the custodian, and every governor comes from a community. So the okra tree cannot always grow taller than the owner. It can always, because when it finishes growing, it must still bend down. So the Igbo say the okra tree cannot grow longer or taller than the owner. I plant okra tree. Suddenly okra tree grows like Charles. You know, you are almost like okra tree. But when you see your father, you bend down and say, Daddy. He will touch you at the back and say, rise, my son, and go. That any governor who in these, of course, traditional rulers, their reign is longer than the governors. Governors have highest 80 years if you are so good, highest 4 years. So if you treat the traditional rulers with your power.
All right.
But let me say what is happening in Southeast Nigeria before I go.
Okay.
If the Sultan can make bold to say this, things are changing in Southeast Nigeria, where most of the traditional rulers have now, instead of becoming the fathers to the governors, they are now becoming subservient makers, all those kind of things, subserviency. They have now brought the spirit of subserviency to the traditional, all hallowed traditional stools of Igbo communities. Some of them now, when the governors cough, they catch cold.
Absolutely.
Which is an error.
Yeah, absolutely.
God bless Nigeria.
All right.
Thank you very much, Chris Maduka, for your time. God bless Nigeria. And that's the most we can take for the review. We'll go on a short break and we'll come back. We'll bring you on the interviews.